Okay, well, my friend asked me to mount a scope for him, so I'm going to make a video on it just because, well, I haven't made a video on that before, and I'm on a lot of scopes, and so I'm going to go over what I'm going to do. Well, you brought this rifle, and you tell it's been out in the rain quite a bit, and on here, it was, I don't know if it's going to focus, there you go. It got a lot of rust underneath there. When I pulled it off, the screws were loose, and he was having a problem with point of impact, point of aim, on it, and so you see where the rust was on there. So I'm going to clean all that up, get all that rust out of there, and then I'm going to clean it up with alcohol, and then I will put some new bases on there, and then I will Loctite it with the blue Loctite, not red, blue Loctite, 242. It's for the screws. We'll Loctite those screws on there. Now, what I like to do on rifles that are used out west is I like to DevCon it. If those of you that aren't familiar with DevCon, it's basically an epoxy. Here it is here. Comes in tubes, 2 tubes, you mix them, and it's a steel epoxy, and it will epoxy the bases to here and fill in any imperfections like this rust and that would imperfect. We're not going to worry about that for this rifle. This rifle is going to be used locally, not going out west, or it's going to be beat around in a case a lot or whatever. So just using a Loctite will be good enough, and it'll get it true to form. And I'm also going to take and lap the rings in to make sure they're good on this, make sure they're true to the scope. And we'll put a new scope on it and some Vortex rings and Leopold bases. And so I'm going to show you, walk you through all that. And then also I'm going to laser zero it, look down the barrel first, sight it on the target that way, and then I'm going to laser sight it and do all that. So Remington 700. And I'll show you some more here in a minute. I'll tack all these videos together. Okay, what we're doing here is I have run alcohol down into the thread holes, and I've run alcohol on the bases to get that cleaned up, and I'll run down through here and get the threads clean before I do the Loctite, before I put the screws back in. As you can see, they corrected a lot of rust and dust over the years. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'll cut for now because I can't do all this doing it while I'm doing it. So I'll clean all this up. I'm gonna put the bases on, I'm gonna Loctite them with blue Loctite, and then we'll come back and I'll show you some more of the video. Okay, so we've got the screws in with Loctite on them, and now what we're gonna do is just torque them down to their torque specs. I do them a little at a time. Make sure we don't overdo them. Bring your bit back when you're done. We got it snapped. It sticks out. It doesn't snap. That's the cork wrench. There we go. Torqued. And we'll check it one more time. It doesn't make them any tighter. People like to think it does. It might go a little bit, but these are inch pounds, so there we go. Again. And again. Okay, those are torqued. And now I'll get the rings. We'll set them up. I'll lap the scope. I'll show you that next. Okay. This is why I lap scope rings. So you can see here how these don't line up perfectly right. Now, granted, I don't have them torqued down yet, but even if I were to torque these down, they would be off a little bit. So by running a lapper through there, you get that more accurately, so the tube isn't stressed and isn't torqued in there sideways a little bit, and it gets a more even grip around the whole scope. So I'm going to lap this now. I'll come back and show you that when I'm in the lapping process. Okay? All right, so I had to turn the light off so you guys can have a glare, but here's what I'm doing. I'm lapping those rings. Now, when you do this, you want to go back and forth, and you want to go, of course, in a circular motion, but you also want to move this back and forth. You also want to make sure you mark the caps on one side and the screw so that you know you get them in the right spot, because once you've done this, it's basically set up to, those have to go right back on. They're just like main bearing caps on an engine or rod bearing caps. They got to go back on the same spot. So anyway, we'll finish lapping this, and then we'll go to step 2, mounting the scope, getting the eye relief set, and I'll come back, show you some more of that. Okay, so what we've done here, if you can see the camera, I'm going to try to slide, hope it doesn't glare too much, but you can see the wear spots here, right here where it was high spot, and there's some on this side you can't see because the camera's at a bad angle. Let me see here. You can see that high spot there on this side, and the high spot on this side, and I checked them with the lineup disc. Let me back up so you can see it there, and then hold this for me. And then you can see also on the caps, I marked them with a scribe because the white paint comes off when you use gun scrubber on it. See, you can tell where the wear was on there, where the high spots are at. And you don't have to do it a lot just to get those. You just need to get thin. There's a high spot on there. So by removing those, and I know which side goes, the marks here go to the outside because the white paint came off when you used gun scrubber. Because you've got to get this compound off because you don't want it in your mechanism or anything like that. So you got to clean it real good with gun scrubber and then alcohol afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead now and get the mount the scope, get the eye relief checked, and then we'll zero it, and I'll show you from there how I laser zero it. Okay, now we've got the scope, eye relief set. We're ready to torque everything down. I've got the barrel axis leveled, as you can see there. I've got the turret leveled, which some people say, oh, you can't get it off of there. But yes, you can. And then I've also got the level on the base. You see it's level there. And then this one, in case everything gets bumped, there's a level on there also to make sure that it's level. So now when I tighten everything down, I can keep an eye on all these. When I tighten the screws and torque them on the caps, eye relief is set. Everything will stay in tune. I know it's a lot of levels. People think that's kind of crazy, but it's the way I am. Okay, I've got the scope on. I've got the levels still on. And as you can see, I kept the gaps between here pretty much even when I torqued them down. I made sure that they all stayed pretty much the same. It's not vitally important, but I like to do it. And now we'll double check the torque. Torqued, 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 and torqued. They're all torqued to 18, just as a Vortex recommended. You can see through. You can see the iron sights on this with these see-through sights. Everything is good there. So the next step will be for me zeroing. I'm going to use a laser. I'm going to bore sight through the bore first, and then I'll show you that in a little bit. All right. And I didn't notice in the video, I was thinking of some of my military scopes that have parallax on this side, and I had to flip it around, so I had to redo it all. I had to take it off just to show you. I put everything back on, redid everything, and I just left these on to show you. Everything's retorqued again, as you can see. I'll show you once again. They're all retorqued. So everything's been torqued. It's all level, and she's good to go. Now we're just going to zero it. Okay, so what we've done so far is we have to do it at night. I don't know if you guys can see the laser out there. It's hitting the target and it's reflecting off of it. I bore sight it first, looking down the bore sighter, and then if you look through the scope, you should be able to see it, and it's right dead nut center on the crosshairs. I don't think you can see it through here very well, but we are on the target. So she is ready to go. She'll be like a couple inches, 2 or 3 inches usually. I get them on paper. Okay, one last quick little video on this. You can see where we mounted the see-through sights, and hopefully you can see that I put a little bit of white paint on the, if you can really see it or not here, let's come back. I put a little white paint on the rear sight and the front sight so they show up a little better, and that paint comes off. It's not a real permanent paint, but just so you can see it, the see-through sights do work with these Vortex see-through scope mounts. And yeah, works pretty good. So it's about 1.25 inches off a bore axis, but not too bad. And you can still use the sights on it. So overall, I think it's great.